Oh, okay. Right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the February TecSocial. February TecSocial. Extremely pleased tonight to have Mayor Clarke and Deputy CAO, CTO for the municipality, John MacKinnon. As well, we've got some councilors here to look at Alvin MacKinnon and Steve Gillespie. Oh, sorry, Alvin McDonald. Sorry, Alvin MacKinnon. He's got a cold. Really excited tonight to have this open discussion with the CBRM to talk about what municipality can do to help support the startup community. And we don't have anything sort of pre-scripted in terms of what the discussion is going to look like. It really is intended to be a forum, and we're hoping that it's going to be very interactive with the audience here this evening. So to kick it off, I'll invite the mayor and John to maybe say a few words about what brought us to this point and what you hope to get from this evening.
So you started things off. You started now.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've been talking about this for a long time. Back, was it a year ago?
Yeah.
I did TecSocial around Smart Cities. And because of that, there was a tremendous amount of feedback that we received. And I know myself, coming from, I'm not a born and bred bureaucrat. I come from the private sector. And I thought for sure that it was important that the business community, the tech business community, was an area that the municipality was not really focusing on. And I know we have all kinds of problems in the CBRM with funding and everything. And I thought that it was really important that we, the CBRM, as best we can, engage with the tech community. And because of that, the mayor and I had talked to Bob, and we thought it would be wonderful to get together with you and talk about ways that we can engage and ways that we can help tech startups, the tech community in CBRM.
I think it's on the government side, so it all comes down to the question of, could we do better, should we do better, and can we do better? Yes, yes, and yes. That's at the end of the day. And what happens when you're in government oftentimes is that you're focusing on where the resources are, where your partners are, and when you're in a challenged economy like we've been, a lot of your focus is literally just trying to work on keeping streets plowed and fixing potholes and all that stuff. But it isn't the vibrancy. We all want a better community, and I know my council colleagues that are here want to deal with that. But the upside is that the shift in the pendulum, aside from those that are part of the tech community that have been, stalwarts and moving forward in a very challenging area. We don't have the capacity to develop. We don't enjoy some of the benefits of all of the other investments that we'd like to have and be able to make. But what we do know is that there are infrastructure funds we can apply for. There's things we can back up now on behalf, because innovation all of a sudden is on everybody's government radar. But that is, how do you help support and advance innovation? There's these waves of funding that come, and we see it in municipalities. But what we can't do is lead the process. We need the sector to lead the process and say, okay, the reason for our dialogue is, how do we do the backup for that? How do we do the supports that are necessary? We're looking at, as we look at the Charlotte Street rebuild, Councilor Eldon McDonald, we met today, as we do that rebuild that we have to do, what are we embedding? Like, having full public access, for Wi-Fi, and having, better connectivity in our downtown core, and having that cluster of what I call the creative economy, both tech and other people, that whole creative community we have, that can help drive and bring the collective energy we need to be a more vibrant community, and seen as a community with a future. So as we go forward, we're looking at it, as we put our 311 system in place, as we do more revamping of our websites, as we look at what we do at Center 200, as saying, even rolling out in-seat apps. We said, we don't want a Cape-Breton-based app being rolled out in Halifax. Get it in place to test it at the Scotties. Let's do it here at home. And that was kind of response, and John worked on that. So there's other areas, and I probably get into where I think municipality could be, I know you probably have things you like to talk about where we need to go. Some of the things that we've looked at, government being government, at times doesn't always have that turnaround time that you always want. I mean, not as quick as what you would in AG research versus being in government. And so those are realities that people like myself have to manage in. But improving outcomes, and I had a chance to connect with Bob, the new year hit, and I was like, okay, we've got so much stuff coming, technology and innovations everywhere. Even in our fire service, I know as well that we want to be more responsive, our volunteer firefighters, and we want to have those apps and those mobile connectivity, and we'll be rolling out that component of things. But it took another year to get to that element. So anyway, we're just here to say, okay, we know we want to do more. We talked about some of the innovation hub in the downtown core. If there's going to be new infrastructure, I've said, look, as part of our economic development, just met with Carl Arsenal, Cape Breton Partnership, as we grow out, we put technology and the tech sector as one of our municipal priorities to recognize that. And again, you have to guide us because it's going to be bringing those ideas back.
And if I can say something too, I think that's huge, really. To have the municipality recognize the technology is one of the, we have maybe 3 or 4 key areas that we want to do business. One obviously is arts and culture, which is what we're traditionally known for. But to have the tech identified as an area where we want to grow and we want to focus on, I think it's huge. Holy cow, I mean, you think about it. So I think that's wonderful. I would, if I could add too, some of the initiatives again, we don't have a lot of money. I said this at the last TecSocial. We don't have a lot of money, but we are here to work with you as best we can. We signed a contract with, I think it's Procurement Canada, is it, with Security, where we are going to be beta testers for them, and they are doing it. So if there's anything, folks at VMP and not on True Advertising, they're the ones that are doing the in-seat beta testing at Senate 100. If people have ideas or opportunities, come to me, let's talk. I know you came.
Those companies are partners.
There you go. Isn't that wonderful? So we're absolutely thrilled at what we can do. Again, we can be, I'm going to go back just a little bit. Kevin, just so you know, Kevin Chisholm was my mentor when I was going through engineering school. So he was a guy that had to read all my diaries and everything that we went through to become an engineer. So Kevin would remember those days, but in the AG days, we're primarily a GIS company, did a little bit of software development. And we were working for the county of Cape Breton back in 1993, 94, prior to amalgamation. And so we're doing a huge data collection exercise in GIS. And in those days, GIS, you couldn't run GIS on a computer, a PC. It was run on, it would only run on Unix systems. Right? So we had the latest and greatest, played with that, and then amalgamation. And just because of AG, where we positioned, all this amalgamation, we were able to, as part of this amalgamation process, we were able to sort of ride on the coattails of it, and we were developing all these systems for this new municipality. And from that, we were then able to, we had an ex-employee who was down in Bermuda working and saw an RFP for a building permitting system in Bermuda. And he said, hey, you guys should respond to it. So we responded to it. And, as part of the response, we had to prove that it was done somewhere else. CBRM was able to give us that reference, which is hugely important. And surprise, surprise, we actually got the job in Bermuda. And when you think about that, and from there, we were working all through the government in Bermuda. We had an office down in Bermuda. That money, and this is something we talk about, that money, you get a $50,000 check in US dollars, it would magically, but in those days, it was like 50 cents dollars, it turned into $75,000 Canadian, and we were having people here working. So whatever we can do to support that kind of initiative, anything we can do to support that, we're there. And I would encourage any and all of you that have ideas. It may take some time. The folks from 902 came months and months and months ago. Took time. Security, the same thing. But we're there and we're open and we will find opportunities. And I know, Bob, you came and presented to our directors about where are our pain points, where are issues that we're running into that perhaps technology can help support. So, we're still working through that. I do know if anybody has any solutions for plastics and getting rid of them, we'd love to hear your ideas, because that is a huge problem for us. But we are going to run into these problems. The mayor talked about 311. We want the residents to become more interactive with system, what is my garbage day, that kind of thing, apps like that. We'd like to encourage tech people, programmers, and everything else to start talking about, come see us. This is what we're looking at doing. Can you guys support that? That kind of thing. So my door is always open. I would encourage you all to sort of, if you're interested, give me a call and see what we can do.
Great. Ideally, we'd love to have the discussion coming from the floor. I've got, Holly and I, this is brainstorming, I've got enough to carry us through the whole night. But again, ideally, we'd love to hear comments, questions, issues coming up from the floor. And I'll just keep going. Okay, all right.
So you say you have these pain points.
Right.
How do you communicate these pain points to us? Do you have them on a web page somewhere, or is that easy, or we have to book with you on spec, hey, John, what are your pain points, or is there an easier way to do that? How do you identify those?
We don't have anything specific. I mean, it's just something that
That's what we're trying to do.
That's what we're trying to
We're trying to work them out.
Oh, is there an app for that?
And there's not an app, but we're trying to, we wanted to use them as part of our Intersect challenge. So we've done 2 rounds of Intersect, one with Snow White Laundry and then one with Protocase. We'd love to take a municipal issue and say,
Because I'm sure there are locks, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
And
absolutely.
and obviously plastic's not a fit for me. or-
No.
But
But we
what are the
do.
others? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we, it would be very useful. And I know we've had an initial meeting with the directors, but that's what Bob had come in the boardroom and talked about some of the issues. Didn't get, it was more of an introduction to what we were attempting to do with the directors, but, with this type of meeting here, people understanding a little better, I do think that we can probably.
I mean, you definitely get the process. I mean, what you outlined, your experience with AG. and-
Oh, that's what we want.
That's.
We want to be the person. Here, you want a reference? I'll give you a letter saying, you get that contract.
Like, what you're saying there about getting a reference, that's a great idea. It would be great if, we weren't waiting around for pains to show up, like if you have a product. It'd be good if the municipality was rolled in with other businesses like the laundromat guy. And if a tech company has a product, they can offer it to a group, municipal and private sector, and say, I have this solution. I just want you to try it, beta test it, free or whatever, minimal cost. And when you're done, I now have a reference, right? Which is very valuable, like you say. It's kind of like the BCIP program that Canada has. It's a Building Canada Innovation Program, where they're your first.
That's Kersey. We have a contract with them.
Municipalities are now able to tap into the BCIP
Oh,
program.
really?
Yeah. They need a federal partner, but clearly if those details are worked out because the municipality is working through that program on the security project.
So in terms of pain points, and I guess, so there's 2 aspects of, one of the things I go back to core infrastructure. So what does the community, what do we need to do as a community for baseline infrastructure? So, because that's what governments do as a core thing. I know Derek, in terms of sandbox, but now in the provincial government and municipal. So one of the questions are, if there's baseline infrastructure that we need and we can be part of, and we have the discussion of rolling out broadband and getting into more rural areas and creating some more hubs. So where can we be on that? So that's just a question that collectively we're open to say, how can we be the facilitator and or the applicant for some of those increased capacity resources? When we talk about a good thing, like from 2012, we looked at the possibility of getting rid of transit, and now it's doubling in our capacity of university. Today we're talking about more bus stops, where we go. So I said, not just a bus stop with an ad on it. We need a bus stop that has Wi-Fi access, that in the winter months in our conditions, we actually have some infrared heaters that can be timed. So all of a sudden, being out in the elements is more, there's some more comforts there and more capacity. So we have Wi-Fi in the buses. Where's my bus? Where's my ride app on there? So you're only going to grow ridership if you make it more convenient, more relevant for the user to see it as a true service rather than for some that have viewed it as only a necessity here. So there's something where we're going to go. Where do we put those points throughout the community? We looked at major hubs, like we don't have a downtown proper hub. We need one. Where should that hub be? What does it do to support other activity? Let's look as a community. We know, and it's a question of where and when, but there's going to be a new community college in Sydney. Well, when you build out somewhere around 250,000 square feet of program space and put 1,500 people more in the downtown core on a daily basis, what can that infrastructure, while the province is investing that, can we piggyback off of that public infrastructure to support other tech and innovative things our community can do? So there's another question where we need what you folks have as ideas. So that's out there now. The other piece that's happening that is going to be there, put the politics out, we're going to have new health infrastructure. There's going to be huge investments in health infrastructure, and it's a door open. I'm now going to the table saying, you've made your political decision. How do I as mayor and how do we as councilors get greatest value? How are we connecting all these facilities? How do we move our citizens for health services around? And what's the best way to do that? We've looked at it in terms of building, in terms of pain points. Right now, you still have to get a building permit in the mail. It should be on your device. You should be able to do your reporting on a digital file. Those are the types of things we need to, so there's something as a city, if we want to be pro-business and pro-development, we actually have to be in the modern age and not just paper-driven. So we have to get over that hump with how do we make it easy and accessible. That, we talked about certified contractors being able to say, yes, the work is done, here's your picture, it goes in your digital file. You're not chasing around being frustrated at City Hall and the bureaucracy of inspections and all these things. So there's other opportunities for us to say, what are the impediments for people to do development? What is the impediment of someone getting just a development permit? And how do we use technology to ease some of that pain and streamline the process? So that's just a couple of things.
We've seen incredible growth in the tech sector. Over the past 6 years, it's grown by 375%. And I don't see it slowing down anytime in the near future. The top things that we hear from technology companies is, acquiring talent, access to talent. Capital, of course, is always an issue. When we spoke with a whole variety of startups and the advantages that we have as a region and a municipality, they're great. I mean, everything from the availability of affordable housing. We're in a bit of a crunch right now with the influx of international students, but there's affordable housing, there's fantastically high-speed internet, there's tremendous access to recreational opportunities literally at your doorstep for creative thinking and creativity. So there's some great things. You mentioned you're at the table, and I think to have one of the big things we need as a tech community is advocacy. So to be able to say, hey, we have a tech community, to encourage people to come here either to work or to start a company would be, if there's anything that the municipality could do to support those efforts, I think would be wonderful. And sort of build the profile of what we already have and what we're building would also be really helpful.
And some of it is you get so caught up on what you're working on. Like I actually had, you're always going to have criticism, constructive or otherwise, and going, there's the mayor, all these fixators on the port. They're all talking about the port. And I said, yeah, but what drives a modern port? It's technology. Every port. So I said the backstop of that was really missed opportunity to talk about what drives a port. All modern ports have to be innovative, connected, supported, and if you're going to be relevant and part of the next generation. So, those are some of the lessons learned as you go through a discussion. You realize after the fact, you weren't communicating that really what you want is a broader opportunity to build broader capacity and not just a ship coming in and out of the harbor with some cans on it. So those are some of the things in terms of where we go, what we know for tourism. So the second work to be done, we have an opportunity to double the capacity of number of tourists, and we double the capacity for the number of employees that come and spend money in the community. And we want their experience to be better. And what we're finding is that they want better access to information. When you talk about, the tap and be and the opportunities, people want to do that. We're talking about, I just had the discussion the last month. We have no integrated wayfinding signage, tourism, travel routes, and we have not connected any of that signage to technology to understand where you're driving, where you're going, that's relevant. And we had a meeting with the COA. So in terms of where we're at, I want to have us a brand. Guysborough County is the largest municipality, most rural municipality, and they have an integrated signage and wayfinding system. And here we are with 95,000 people, with 2 First Nations, and we're not connected on something as basic as wayfinding, like I say. So there's something we're going to apply on. Is that an opportunity to attach technology to travel routes, to tourism opportunities, to local facilities? And that's where we can work with government to say, are there some local solutions to make it so that tourists are easier to be here, they enjoy our venues and our waterways, and at the same time stay longer, spend money and have a beer and a bite to eat. So. Any questions? Anybody?
Yeah, so I'm just curious, a lot of the topics, discussed here tonight, I think revolve around connecting different facets of the community. I'm just curious how much emphasis, I know you said that you are planning to revamp the websites. How much emphasis you're putting on the website in terms of is it, going to be a one-stop kind of access to all of this different information, which, like bus routes, the different pain points is inquired about, how much information is going to be on the website in terms of connecting the community and putting this information out there for people.
Yeah, go ahead. As much as we can. As the mayor mentioned earlier, we will be in the next couple of months. Are you familiar with what 311 is?
The medical line?
No, see, you're not. That I think might be, that's a 1-1, but I don't know which 1-1 it is. Not all, yeah, everything. Anyway, what 311 is a number, it's identified as a municipal number to call to get service. Halifax has 311. So when you want to engage with the municipality, either by phone or whatever, currently you go to the blue pages. You go to the CBRM blue pages, you'll see about 220 phone numbers there. And if you're in Myra Road, I use that example, and you have a problem with your sewer, could be whatever. What we have is Public Works North, Public Works Central, Public Works East. If you're in Myra Road, does anybody know which one it is?
Center.
It is Central, but most people don't know it. So what it is it's a number that will allow people to call, and they will get a real live operator all the time. Because I'm sure people that are trying to deal with municipality, we tend to only have one person behind that number, and if they're gone on break, you have to get the answer machine. So there will always be somebody available to answer your call, but with that, there will be different access points. So people will be able to text, to be able to say, okay, I want to know, because a lot of younger people don't pick up the phone. So the operator will be able to see that. But with that, because of that, we will have to have all of the information that they need in one particular spot. So because of that, the information will be better exposed to the residents of the CBRM. And that's effectively how it will be. Now with websites, websites are, a lot of people, and this is and I appreciate your opinions on this, but websites, a lot of people today won't go to the CBRM and say CBRM.S, CAO, they'll do a Google search and they'll say garbage CBRM and they'll come to a page. So, I mean, we will be looking for some help and better understanding the best ways of being able to make the public give them better access to the information that we have. So it's not necessarily a nice, again, I'm a little older, but I heard, and you're probably close to the same age. But there used to be an IBM commercial on, and it was about flaming logos. Oh, flaming logos. But that's how it used to be, the old days of Flash and everything else. But that's not how it is today. So, we don't want to invest a whole lot of energy and limited resources on Flash. I know HRM, they have money up the wazoo, but they spend millions of dollars on their website. We want to make it user-friendly and functional for the residents. So.
Cool, thanks.
You can say, well, something with a question. One of the things I've been doing as well, I just finished a meeting with Moncton. I looked at what do we need to do, how we're going to move forward. And so you're in Atlantic Canada context, so I went to Moncton, I'm going to St. John, we're struggling in St. John. I'm going to Summerside, Corner Brook, to the non-Atlantic centers that aren't capitals. You just can't compare Fredericton, Charlottetown, St. John's, Halifax. It's just no comparison. And so I'm going to say, okay, how are you folks finding, getting along here? Because what are you doing that's making things happen? How are you working with other municipalities? In Moncton, for Atlantic Mayors, we're at the Den Center there, right in the heart of downtown Moncton, and this vibrant hub of activity. And I'm looking around at the buildings being invested in and saying, what are our challenges as a council to invest? And they said, well, we just taken a new program. It's not, we can't tweak the tax system, but we've changed it so that we have a development credit or grant system so that someone gets, once they completed the project, we give a grant at the back end to thank them for doing it. And all of a sudden you've got this renewed infrastructure, you have a more creative place. So we're like, okay, as I said to Mayor Don Arlen, imitation's the highest form of flattery. And there's nothing wrong with looking at what they're doing well. And so what I'm looking at is other municipalities. And if you find a website, I look across the country at different municipalities in your free time saying, what have they got up in these major centers where they have resources to do this stuff, and what can we piggyback on and put in our systems here? And so it isn't like, and there are no easy answers, but we do have some capacity and we do have some resources, and we're going to make some tough choices in our budget, but we haven't backed away from our own investments that are there. I was asked as well, just in terms of with the Ben Center, and I've had this discussion, I said, and with the Regional Enterprise Network for Economic Development, we said the tech sector is going to be a priority. We don't have access as a municipality to technology, to facilities that provide us with the ongoing capacity to meet and do things. City Hall is restricted in terms of space. So I said, we want to be a tenant in a tech hub, but we don't want an office space. We need access to program hours. So we need facilities. We need to do a stakeholder session. We want to talk about the tax rates, and people come in. Well, we have space that we can go in, but we can be supportive of that infrastructure to allow other people to be creative, at the same time get connected and use that space productively on behalf of taxpayers too. So it's not just cutting checks; it's actually getting value back. And the other thing it does is get us out of the government building and into a community complex with all the life and vibrancy that's there. So we have to rethink how we're going to, run a government. And I don't want to build another massive boardroom. I'd rather be part of a community multi-use facility that we can come in and use, and other people can use and benefit from. So that's another key component that we've had as well.
I have a question. Oh, no, okay, you can.
I'm just curious, you were speaking about the pain before, and I feel like the parking app is a great example of a pain that CBRM had and that technology served that pain for you. I'm curious what the adoption rate of that app has been since it's been rolled out.
It's been going up every month.
Good.
It has, and it's also opened up opportunities for us that we otherwise wouldn't have, where, for example, we can't afford three parking lots that we own. We currently don't have any particular mechanism for charging, but what that app will do. Are you familiar with that? That's the, yeah. But every month it's been going up. They actually have a, it was a little startup. I think they're from New Brunswick.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, I will say that I really love it, and
Yeah.
it's the only way I pay for parking now is through the app.
Yeah, they actually have a transit, as a member of it. You can also use it. So we're actually in discussion with them about putting it on our transit system as well, so that people will be able to pay for their, for transit, getting on the bus using that app, as opposed to having to carry cash.
I've been wondering when that was gonna come.
Yeah,
I lived in the UK for a year and I didn't have to have any cash on me.
yeah.
It was a card or my phone.
Yeah, with that, the challenge we had prior to this was the cost of the infrastructure to put in place, say, to be wired. So if you had a physical piece of hardware on the bus, incredibly expensive. And prior to most recent ridership, it just wasn't cost effective for us to be able to put that amount of infrastructure on a bus. But this is using your own cell phone, right? So you go in, and actually the way it works is and these are all things, right? I mean, you see a pain point, we found a solution. We love for this community to find, we'll work together, I can guarantee you. But you just turn your mobile phone, tap it to the driver, and money goes into our account. So how much easier is it to make? So we are looking at that as well.
Okay.
Brian, and then, yeah, I went to the hospital today and I had to drive around for half an hour, try to find a parking spot, and all the parking spots were full, and there was 30 cars driving around circles. So this app that you have will say the parking, does that give you a specific parking spot? So I had 10 people cut in front of me went into the spot, so there was one around. You know what I mean?
Is that at the regional
And I had to
hospital?
go out.
Yeah, the problem is, even if it's
Right.
full, it still lets you in, and then you're trapped. You gotta
Right,
pay
of course.
$3 in there. Even if there's no cannabis.
Yeah, see, that's maintained by.
Yeah, but part of the discussion with the health authority, and we've sat down about that, is as things go forward with the expansion, because just on the regional hospital is gonna have a major expansion to it, and so the first question is said, what are we gonna do for parking? What are we gonna do for access points? What are we gonna do for accessibility? But taking to your point about the app, the university should have it from on a park for a buck, and the hospital have it. We need to integrate what we have as that base now for what traditional parking spots, and then we'll extend it and allow other users to buy into it. It's a private lot. And I've had private people say, I can't police my lot, but if I had the parking spaces and I knew there was enforcement, maybe now all of a sudden it become, because there's not enough money in it to have someone stationed there, but there would be if there was other mechanisms. So there is a lot of extra parking spots in the downtown, but you can't monitor or police it, so to speak. So we're potentially missing an opportunity. But to your point, with our facilities, the province has said that they're open to this. Like I say, anything that talks about innovation and connecting, there are new resources out there that weren't there, 2 years ago. So let's take advantage of it. And so the opportunity is not just this session, but I'm looking to Bob. Bob, where do we go? I'll chase whoever we have to chase with council to help facilitate better outcomes. But I have no capacity to drive it. That's what the people in the room do, right? That's the other piece around it.
But that app was it. You pay when you use that app right away. Pay for, that's what's paid for. It's not that number,
The number on the spot.
The number on the spot, yeah, what they
or nobody
actually,
else can be there when you, after you pay for it.
correct, absolutely. And what it does have is it has
That's a
a
meter.
little sticker next to the meter, but they do have it in other places as well. But yeah, that's how it works.
John?
So there was mention that parking app was a New Brunswick solution originally,
Correct.
and that's fantastic that it's within the Maritimes here. But I would think that if you want to work with the CBRM tech sector, a CBRM solution may still be a better option. So in regards to things that you may already have in place that exist, if there was an alternative that was local, would you be willing to support something like that? Even if there was a
Absolutely.
changeover?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. If they were able to, if whoever it was in the community was able to provide and develop something that was comparable, absolutely.
Yeah.
That would be our, that would be,
Let me segue
You
to
know,
a different opportunity.
so, we'll be
We've got
there.
something
Just so
with
you know.
fire, one of the things, our volunteer
Yeah.
fire service, we have over 700 volunteers in the CBRM. And albeit we need better cellular connections and broadband, but in terms of, a locally made app that finally, we're coming around, volunteer fire chiefs, like, we just want to have access to text and we want to be able to say we're en route, we want to be able to do this. We have government being government, we've gone through a process, and we're finally going to roll out the RFP for that, but it took, when did we present the
Question, how can an RFP help a local company?
Well, there
We
you
work
go.
with you to develop the expertise, and then you put it out to the world for our competitors to come in and undercut our own local. I don't understand that. That was a concept that's still, I'm having a hard time. I understand where you guys are trying to help the support, and we really appreciate it as a local business. But when you push it out to RFP, if you've ever done one, it's an incredible amount of work for a company to put one together.
But it
When
is-
you put it together, you put it out there for the world. If you're really trying to support that local company, how is that helping us?
So in the case of what we're looking at, Ian, and I'll go back to something we experienced in a total different thing, I'll come back to it, which one of the things is local service capacity and support on the ground. So if you want to do, we want to go out and do an RFP, one of the elements is going to be
Absolutely.
who is on the ground to provide these supports to these fire departments to be able to provide, on-ground support. So all of a sudden, if there's a competitor of yours, if they don't have someone who can be on the ground like you are, that is one of the elements. And we had on a different element about how you have to look at government and concerns. I had, when we first came into office, all the building construction trades, local companies were very frustrated about how we were putting out road work, construction, and the big companies coming in and the local companies weren't. We literally had to go and peel away and put out individual tenders, pace them out, make sure the local capacity was there. And as a result of that, the building construction trades, the local companies now say, we had to change the way we did business by listening to how to break it down. In the case of what you're talking about, and I said to John, it's not just having people with access to an app, it's people that can service them and train them and be there on the ground for them. So that will be an element of the RFP. So when you look at who your competitors are for the service that you provide, how many of them are going to be able to do what you do here now when you bid?
If I can add though, the key thing here though for us is that our procurement people, we are bound by international trade agreements, NAFTA and others. What allows you to be able to do work, what allows me to be able to do work in Bermuda and the United States, allows others to be able to compete. So there is that back and forth. And I do believe though, by working together, we can come up with ways in which, as the mayor identified, and it is hugely important to us. When we do an RFP, we score it, rank it on certain things. One of the requirements is absolutely local capacity. When are you going to be available? That's important to us. Price isn't necessarily as important, believe it or not, as cash strapped as we are, but we are bound by certain international agreements that require us provincially, federally, internationally. We do pilots. Yep. So, absolutely, let's talk about that. But we are required and bound by legislation to have to attract. But all that being said, local does, when we're looking at responses, local does tend to vote. Sean?
So if a local company were to develop an alternative just for a local solution, would that have to go out to RFP and then maybe, because the solution's already in place, so you wouldn't necessarily want to put out an RFP to get people to bid on that solution if it's just an interchange from an existing solution to a local one. But does an RFP, is it required? And does that prevent you from adopting a local solution as an alternative to something you've already solved?
So I can deal with procurement stuff. If you
Yeah.
wanna-
Well, I think you have to legally.
Yeah.
But again, lots of discussion, right? We have lots of discussion back and forth about what you're trying to build. There may be certain things that we want that the app doesn't do, that kind of thing, which
Yes.
gives you the competitive advantage when it comes to the time. We are, if we're good or bad, we have to go.
So the reality for the municipality is we're a creature of the province, and so we're bound by the internal agreement of trades and tariffs and all provincial procurement and stuff. But here's the thing, where an so if someone comes up with an app for something that doesn't exist in the market, that's totally different in terms of piloting, testing, rolling something out versus when there's competition already in the marketplace for a particular app. So it's not it's all or nothing. It's about if it can be moved in, position it that you're just testing something or piloting something. So if that's the case, it doesn't exist, then you're just developing your own solution that can be a homegrown solution. And just in terms of the parking, when that stuff went forward, there wasn't anything brought forward that I was aware of the process. But
In actual fact, it's a pilot right now.
What I was getting at was not necessarily that this is something someone may want to do, but just as a support option, if there was a local solution, could you adopt it? But it sounds like if it's feature parity, like in all other sense, it's equal, and you're replacing one competitor with another competitor, you wouldn't be able to do that.
I wouldn't, we couldn't do that, but as the mayor said, we could, if you have a better mousetrap, if you got an idea, and you want to talk, we can look at, getting into an agreement and arrangement like we have with Security. What's the,
exactly, the building innovation program.
right, which allows us to work with them on developing and testing. And then when it becomes product ready, we can then go.
Perfect, thank you.
If I can make comment to Ian's comment about the RFP and the frustration, and I get that from the local business side of things. Speaking just for myself in regards to the council for the area, we want to help our local people win as many tenders as possible. That will be, I think, a goal of all mayor and council. But realistically, that's probably not possible when you take everything into consideration. So a couple of things come to my mind with the RFP. John raised an issue earlier about winning a contract in Bermuda. And if it was only local people that were able to apply for that, they would have never gotten that job. So there's equal opportunity for people here to apply to Bermuda as someone from Bermuda applying here for an equal app. It's up to you to make sure that your product is the best product, and you let the people on the ground here to be able to support that product to win that RFP. And from my perspective, as a counselor, I'm there to try to make the best decision financially on behalf of the taxpayer, that we get value for our dollar. And I can give you an example. I won't say what the project was, but I can give you an example where there was RFPs put out, 3 people applied for that, and a couple $100,000 between 2, and the third one was over $1 million over what the other ones were. If that one was a local company and the other 2 were from away, and the local company was over $1 million more, and it was only saying 150, 200,000 between the other 2, then as a counselor I have to look at that and say, well, should I give it to the local guy $1 million and we have to get it for half of that? Is that really value for the dollar for the taxpayer? So it's up to that local company to make sure that their bids are there to compete with, as we do today, globally, and make sure that you have the product that's going to win out. But it's hard for us to go and allow someone from just local to be able to consider it, because we've been accused of the past, we'll be accused of the future. Why did you handpick this person for this particular thing? I didn't get an opportunity. So that could be another person from this community, it could be another person from just across the causeway, or it could be someone from Halifax or someone from the other side of the country. So where do you cut that? Who's allowed to bid, who's not allowed to bid, and why do we have to go around?
And some of it's lessons learned, and to Ian, what you had referenced, when I was dealing with this, yes, you can have an app and it can do something, but I said, one of the things we've heard was we need the service side. We need to have the training component. We need to have the ability to connect. Well, that was some lessons learned. And part of that was, it relates to what we learned about trying to respond to the local contracting community to make more competitiveness. I'll tell you an example. It blew my mind because we went out and one day for something that you need security for, the shredded system, and I went in one day and then my shredded bin was gone and there was a new bin there. And I said, what? Well, we procured it. And when they brought it back, so it was a Cape Breton company providing a good service. They went out to re-tender and it came in on price point. And then when I looked at it, the spec was missing. And I looked and I said, well, the company that now does it, that's off island and comes in, they do the service well. And I said, what happened here that our local company wasn't competitive? Well, then I looked at it, and this was a lesson learned for the next time because the contract had to be let. The size of the bin was a quarter smaller than the one the Cape Breton firm had. So the price point changed and it was a spec issue. So there's where it's a lesson learned, where we have to change the procurement the next time to say, everything being equal, what's your pricing on what we had for the volume that they could process versus. So that's like, you learn as you go, and we're, you know, government being government, we sometimes we catch up and we like to think you can lead in certain things, but again, as we go forward, and I guess, Bob, in terms of the tech community and in innovation, really it's, you know, the door is open, I guess the question is from a staff point of view, but from a council point of view, we just are looking at saying, how do we engage better, you know, with Derek and his colleagues and the federal, and really the provincial is our conduit to that broader network. And that's what I'm really glad you're here too. So, Richard?
Yeah, so just thinking about the big picture and the basic premises of how are you going to support the technology innovation sector here. So most of the discussion is revolved around you as customer, right, and the procurement processes. And frankly, I think that's the lowest hanging fruit. That's the easiest to fix. And it shouldn't be a problem. Right? Full confidence that you can fix that if you want to, right? So I think the much bigger question is to recognize that it really is an ecosystem and what is your appropriate role in it, and how, and have, I think you have to think a bit bigger than just being a customer. I think the advocacy thing is really important, and the communication and positioning thing is really important. So if we're going to position ourselves as an innovation community or a creation, creative economy, all that, then we have to change. It's a cultural change, both within the CBRM, but within the broader community as well. So I think that's the thing you have to tackle if we're going to create a sustainable. You know, that's one thing that we're trying to do. We don't always succeed.
So Richard, just to reverse that, so on the advocacy side, so we take it, so put us aside from the commercial relationship, but go on the advocacy. So then it's really, what is that advocacy? So the door is open, we can come to that table to talk about what is it we're advocating for.
Well, that's a good. Okay, those are good questions. I think you have to decide where your priorities lie as a CBRM. I mean, obviously your priorities are to provide services, the public services, your basic fundamental requirement. But if you're thinking about how you market yourself and position yourself against other communities, I think you have to decide, well, we have to, and I know you can't ignore all the other interest groups that are out there constantly at you for whatever, but I think, I'm not sure I'm trying, it's a lot more conceptual than pragmatic perhaps, but I think advocacy in terms of, you know, if there are federal programs, I mean, the big issues we have to solve are capital and access to human resource, right? And part of the access to human resource issue is that young people who are programmers or in that, they have to want to live here. There has to be more than, it has to be more than an industrial park downtown, right?
What's
There's a
really
lot of parts to that.
Holly actually visited all the computer science programs in Atlantic Canada last year to promote our startup community as a place to form a startup or work for a startup. And the overwhelming finding was that people thought, oh my goodness, Cape Breton has all of these companies. Like,
Yes, exactly.
They were absolutely unaware that there was anything happening in technology.
I mean, Kroger case is huge, right? And 45 drive. Security, you know, so when the exit for narcotic was huge, but security is going to be 10 times easier.
Absolutely.
So
that's what builds
awareness. So let's talk about an opportunity that is local in terms of where we're at. John Phelan was doing the economic development major projects. Everyone's talking about a brand new library for our community. And so John, get a hold of Steve, Lily. We want to come over and want to do a tour. Like, we're going to build. We have a new build potentially on the horizon. We have people doing energy efficiency. We're going to have this new building. Are there components and models that are actually local that can be part of a new library that is going to be a substantial build? So there's an opportunity for us to on a case where we can say that does exist here. We're looking at components of a building. We do want to look at everything from the energy efficiency, the life cycle of building, operational efficiency, durability because of public use. So we're going to have that local dialogue because we can't lose the opportunity of what that library presents. And it also can be a showcase as the first brand new CBRM built buildings since amalgamation. When you look at it, this is our chance to showcase something that would be a new build. And in that, it should be the most innovative, tech-friendly library as well.
Advanced lighting.
We're going to be wonderful at advanced places.
Right.
Think
So
about that.
that's an example where,
Yeah, so
we're in public infrastructure, can we incorporate local capacity or components to it?
Yeah.
Did you want to say something?
Yeah, just a comment, glad I could make it. I think, I've had lots of conversations with John over the years about, from the staff perspective when it comes to technology and how you can support the industry. It's interesting, I did a tour of all 50 municipal units about a year and a half ago, and you would think that, the traditional challenges, they would talk about roads and buildings and whatever, but it was technology. Like that was the big thing, it was access to high-speed internet and how we could support the tech sector recruitment and of expertise. I think tonight is important, and I think especially for you, Mr. Mayor, and for council, I was a councilor, we never talked about it. We never talked about it. There was no discussion about this industry and the players that are in it, and the companies that were growing at the time. And, we started those conversations a bit in the last year, but it's important that you're here. It's important that Eldon's here. And again, it goes to I think it's the shift in the mindset of what council needs to be. Of course, there's districts and you do your job and you have your infrastructure, but this is an important conversation for council because they are the local advocates and there is resources available. We're spending north of $190 million starting this year for high-speed internet right across the province. We're that farthest by a country mile in Canada. It's not even close. So we're playing that role, but on a local level, I've said this to all council, so it's, it's not singular here, is that it's big. We need local advocates. Government's got to start talking about it. It's the next generation is moving away from the traditional things that they expect of local government into more broad-based community solutions, and it includes this group in this room, technology there.
And building on it, Minister, because it goes back to Richard. One of the things, as I said, it went up, and they had the Tri-City, State of the Tri communities, and Moncton, DF, and Liberty working together, and how they're going forward. But in Moncton, it was Moncton 1.0, 2.0, they're on Moncton 3.0. They've actually set the standards that they want, the threshold they want to meet as a community, and have challenged not only themselves, but the broader business and wider just citizenry to hit these standards. Like, this is what we want to reach by this time. If we're not there, we haven't succeeded. And they've gone to 3.0. So to your point about having that discussion and saying, okay, let's establish what is that benchmark we want to get up to. And we're going to do the economic development. We've got a different approach with the partnership now that we're embarking fully on this year. Let's take advantage of that to write the narrative and what is it we want to get to, and be thinking where we go after we achieve that success. So there's an opportunity this coming year. It starts April 1st operationally. We're ramping up. And as I said, one of the things we assigned, we were going through our list, we said we added the tech innovation side of it because we said there was a gap. And to Derek's point, things are different now. And we don't want to be looking at other people's success stories. We've got to write that narrative. It's not Moncton's story we want to have. It's just that there's a good lesson learned there. Now, how do we step up and set that for ourselves?
And if we look at the crystal ball and then look at, there's so much happening globally, technology-wise right now. You've got everything from self-driving cars to smart homes, smart meters. What's in the future for technology from a municipal perspective? Effectively, all of what you said. I know that we're in discussions with Nova Scotia Power now to provide wireless access to regional water. Something which we're a little late on, which I do think is hugely important, is, as the mayor had identified, Wi-Fi. It's been overused, everybody talks about it, but we have the second birth. Think about it. Having the second berth, which is going to effectively double our capacity. We work in the city center. We have Wi-Fi in the building. We have postal Wi-Fi. People from the cruise ships come down there and they sit in that lobby. Obviously, they don't have access. So, you think about Wi-Fi, the entire, I call it actually the peninsula of Sydney, going down, you know, there's talk, tracking it down, north end of Sydney, the entire north end of Sydney, perhaps get into the park, the park over there, all the way down, we're
You're
talking.
getting into the paddle boats, that's done.
Yeah, there you go.
I know where
Down-
you go for a walk.
down-
You go for a walk in the summer, we're
down-
playing Pokemon Go.
Well, let me, okay, I've got to tell you a bit of a story. When Pokemon Go was big, we had Wi-Fi on our buses. We've never seen them so full. People were going on the buses and using our free Wi-Fi because they were running out of data. Yeah, that's a true story. We couldn't figure out why in the middle of summer, people were standing room only on the buses. But anyway, you just think about it. We're doing, we're planning to complete the boardwalk, park. So you just think about it. You think about having the entire peninsula Wi-Fi along there into the park, going to the band show. We think of cluster technology companies all along Charlotte Street, George Street, the Esplanade. I mean, Mike, you know, and
Well, that's the question.
it's somewhere down there.
Do you think that 20 neon signs at George and Chris along the Esplanade?
20 on the outside. Oh, don't get us going with that. That's come
Well, I
on.
mean, we're serious about tourism.
No, that's
PEI
fair.
does
That's a fair.
sign legislation.
We've been
20
debating
years
it.
ago.
We've talked about that internally and staff at the council level. There are certain things that we're working on plans to try to help with that. So, but that's sort of the.
Personal.
Yeah, no.
People have tried to tell you that, but I'll go back to what Derek talked about in terms of provincial capacity. So let's go back. We all know we need more capacity. Even Center 200, we have a private solution to get more Wi-Fi capacity than there.
That was,
So there's a private sector solution to provide a free service in terms of, you know, what they gain and do advertising and other things. But, so we go to the province, so to be the advocate, so we don't mind being the advocate, but what is the capacity we need? This is out of my wheelhouse now, like what do you need for capacity? And it's not just Wi-Fi, we've got to make sure that the whole broadband and cell technology are both there. So people, because I hear it all the time about people not being connected in this community. And we've got to close those gaps. So the broader question is, if we're going to go and advocate and we want to have that, then what is it we're asking for? Because as you said, the till's open.
And I,
Country mile. The question is, how do you stretch that country mile?
There are.
There's $180 million on the table right now.
I have a meeting, and that is true. I don't know if you're aware of that. That's that real process.
Yeah. But cell's part of that.
I have a meeting out in Benyon next week with a local group that wants us to advocate on their behalf to be able to provide rural broadband. So there are things that we can do, and you know, if there is anything that you guys see as opportunities, you have to go.
This kind of goes back to the first question tonight by Richard there. Like where is the access point to, like, I think what you guys are looking for as the, you know, kind of customer role in this is that you're looking for solutions and innovation from private and tech sector. Tech is kind of looking for advocacy, that connection to be made. So where is that connection going to happen? Like in terms of, like what Richard said, if you know, I was to tell somebody right now, there's all these problems that we could be working on, where do we find that list?
There was a mayor's roundtable on culture. We perhaps see a.
Yeah, well, let's look at that. So we established a mayor's roundtable on arts and culture in the community. Part of that roundtable is I went to Joelle Fold and I said, Joelle, I need your help. And she signed up and I said, I need to find out, we've heard there's a real gap here and within the creative economy. And so 6 years later, but she went and people came to the table and I said, I'm not appointing anyone. I'm facilitating this and I want you to be the mayor's roundtable. They went and got the people in the sector and everyone sat around the table. It wasn't there for political reasons. They were there for the practical thing that and we finally got a strategy. And now this year we start the implementation, hiring a resource person to do the rollout of the creative economy plans. for the CBRM that was developed by those in the sector here in the CBRM. And Joella and others will play a key role in the advisory side of that. So we've done it from the technology, the innovation side. If that's something in terms of facilitating, in terms of having, when you talked about, how do you advocate for this, for the community, having a marriage roundtable on technology and innovation, again, in a similar format, and you provide the venue and you provide the staff support and resources to move it forward, I'm totally open to that. There's other things I'm trying to address is I'm doing the mayor's task force on the commercial tax rate because it's killing business opportunities, and we've got a real issue I have to address with the premier. I talked to the premier about this, and I'll be doing a full public forum about, I'm hearing from people they want to invest in their properties, but they won't because their taxes are just going to go through the roof. And so I have to look at a mechanism. And I just talked to a business the other day that we're looking at up to a $6 million investment and are just standing and saying, we just know what's on the other side of that, but we want to be seen as, making a very large investment because we believe in the community. I'm like, well, what I have to do is take your story, and part of the change in the narrative. So when I go to the premier and the government to say, we got to change this, I know there's going to be an adjustment year where we're going to have a gap. If we bring the rate down, how are we making up the gap? And I want the business community to say, you change the rate, this is what we're going to do. But we're not going to do that. Can we implement what Moncton has, and I'm looking at the other municipalities to say, we're going to do a development grant to incent people to do that renovation or to build that new building and get a reward for doing it, which then will drive our revenues up and get into a new tax rate that actually is competitive for people to start a business here. So I recognize if you want to talk what we do to support the tech community, we need to have a tax system here municipally that allows people to grow and have the bricks and mortar that is going to kill them and take money away from what they should be doing in growing business. So there's another side, but I would totally be open to having a mayor's roundtable on that, if that will help guide how we get that ask and how we do the advocacy and build the capacity.
Yeah, I think the roundtable is a wicked idea. And I mean, going back to what Derek said, like years ago, tech wasn't even being talked about at one point, you know what I mean? So to me though, I think the conversation needs to be kind of more in real time. Like, not that it's not a good idea to have a roundtable as often as possible, but I mean, how often can you have that in terms of, and compared to how often there are new pain points coming up? So like, how does the, technology is awesome. We're talking about high-speed internet that's like blowing speeds out of the water, but like, if it's not being used to keep the information exchange in real time, then why are we really connecting the community? You know what I mean? Like, I just think it'd be a good idea to have, at least a website that almost like a forum where that's updated with current proposals or, because like then it gets ahead of the, we're talking about, tenders being lost to other communities, that sort of thing. But I mean, the sooner that our community gets exposed to the issues, the sooner that people can work on those solutions, right?
And part of it is by having that access point, the roundtable for the creative economy, it was a monthly thing, and then they went out and got feedback and came back, but it was always about, they weren't coming back once they had something to move on to next. So, but in terms of, having a portal or a platform, we can have that and use the existing process. And I say, look, criticism is not a bad thing as long as it's constructive.
Yeah.
Like, I know there's a problem. Okay, where's the solution? So I'm okay with criticism, but we need to have the ideas or a proposed solution where you could be doing it better. Because again, without those ideas or solutions or recommendations, we in government just say, okay, there's a problem and we want to talk about it, but we're not going to get you an outcome. And there's the balance too. And I was just saying to Adrian just about, because I'm going to the Chamber of Commerce about tax rates and stuff, I'm saying, folks, you got to come in and start pounding about where the problems are, because ultimately, between John on the bureaucratic side, not the business side anymore, but
I am a bureaucrat.
Yeah, but he is.
I still have a
That's
tax.
okay. But on the political side, and there is that push-pull of operations, and if you're not being the voice where the challenges are, it isn't easy. And sometimes, that's what I'm saying, a Chamber of Commerce, a construction association, a broader tech community can say what the problems are, try to be a voice for their stakeholders without it being this company is just upset at the municipality or, PO at you, that's what these groups are there. They're there to be advocates. So, part of our going forward with our viability study with the province is, what do we need as a municipality to be relevant? And the province is spending $200,000 to help us get Grant Thornton to look at all our systems. When we commend those systems, we want to be talking about innovation, driving how to operate the municipality better. So we'll take advantage of it, and I would just, not to put you in a spot, but we use Bob has been the conduit. But if I set up I'm happy to set up a roundtable, but we need to have that connection back to broader stakeholders.
Yeah, I mean, we already have this.
Yeah,
We did have a, yeah, and I'll tell you, it was incredibly diverse.
And bring it back.
But I do know,
I'll coordinate the meeting. How about that?
Yeah, well, but I do get what you're saying, though. I think you're looking for specific issues, specific pain points that you can sink your teeth in right now.
Well, like,
Probably what you're looking.
kind of like a map
Get a
to
sense
it,
of.
you know what I mean? Like, as someone who has lived here and, worked in this, in the tech industry
Right.
for the past, number of years, like, it's definitely, I think we have an advantage as a smaller municipality in that it's easier to map out. Like, Halifax has so many more companies and so many more access points like InnovaCorp and those sorts of organizations. Whereas here it's like, we want to recruit people to come live here, but also there's so many people that already live here within this kind of field or age range that we're talking about that just don't know the map to kind of get involved or, and then, once you're involved, how do you get to those issues? So, I mean, specific, yeah, I think like some kind of site hub that just directs as a main source, you know what I mean? Like if we're talking about infrastructure in terms of the municipality, I think that, yeah.
We can use some rebranding.
Cool.
Yeah. Last question for the night, and then we'll wrap it up.
Just because you brought up rebranding there was mention earlier that when Holly went out to look for outside talent to see if they want to come to Cape Breton for entrepreneurial and tech reasons, they weren't aware Cape Breton offered that. And there were so many tech companies and startup things happening here. I know, Mr. Mayor, you had said that Cape Breton needed, or CBRM needs a new brand. What can be done in that branding plan to push the tech industry with it?
It's a question that couldn't be within an hour of having that discussion. We just sat, Carla, because we said, we gotta bring together all these components, because they said, what are we? And we said, our discussion was, the negatives and the shortcomings speak for themselves, but all of our strengths don't get put out there.
Yes.
From the airport to the port, to our creative economy, to the tourism side, infrastructure, tech thing. So just to that, part of the plan for this year is integrating that into one CBRM narrative that will support the broader Cape Breton prosperity framework narrative that has not existed before. And there will be a person assigned to bringing all those stakeholders and saying, what is our narrative? And how is it that, and it will actually get to that other point we talked about, of saying, now that we've got what everyone's strengths are, what do we need to do to get to that next standard? And as a community, establish that standard and take Moncton's model as one to imitate and say, hey, it worked. And now what do we want to do? And how do we fill in that gap? And then that is just, I think, a positive next step that we can do. So that question versus the action item is happening as we speak. It's great.
You're not a fan of community of communities, are you? Which was our brand since 1995.
Oh, but I've never given it.
I try to look at like a newspaper, like look at the negatives. Most of the things that people are seeing as negatives, I see a lot of that as positives. And a prime example is, in the last probably 6 months, Sean and I have been working on projects, right? And when we went out to the rest of Canada, I used a lot of the clippings of the negatives as to why they should be here. Like, Inverness started about 4 or 5 years ago. There's all kinds of clippings there saying, you couldn't get workers, you couldn't get, places to stay, right? Well, to me, those are all positive. That's the reason why someone would want to invest, right? And then I started hearing about shed camp, right? Same thing. People were having to buy homes in shed camp to put their workers in because there was no housing in shed camp. Right? So there are stories done on that. I took those stories, I got the clippings on those. Then in Inverness, same thing was happening. They had to close the restaurants early because they couldn't buy houses to put workers in because the housing was too expensive then. Then I started noticing, we started hearing it in Cape Breton. There's negatives about the busing. The buses were too full. There's negatives about housing. All these students are coming in and there's not enough housing. I took all those clippings. I went to some friends of mine in Alberta, Saskatchewan. I said, look, there's a trend here. It's changing, right? When you start hearing all these type of stories, that's telling you that there's growth. When you don't have enough housing, you don't have enough buses, things that we don't notice it. We're still thinking of it as negative, but it's changing, right? I got these companies coming in now, Sean and I, probably about $18 to $25 million worth of work with that. We've got 3 projects on the go right now that we've taken in just by showing them what people have been calling negatives. I've been showing them and calling them positive. And it's working quite well for us. So when we're looking at some of the stuff that we think is negative, I hope we have more negatives like that. I hope we have tons of it. Because when I show it to people off Ireland, they think it's great. Right? So I think we've actually sort of changed. We lost our fishing, we lost our steel, we lost our mining. I think we've bottomed out. And you just start watching what you see around. When people start complaining about the buses, I can't get on the bus. When they start complaining about housing, when they start complaining that the price of rent has gone up. Right?
You're going, right?
Yeah. Right?
All the above is
When you start complaining, universities bringing in too many students. When you start hearing all that, smile. Smile, it's changing. Huh? It's changing. I hope you bring in another 2,000. Yeah? I want to hear more stories. He's talking about bringing in 1,500 next year, more students. If you bring in 1,500 students, you need 32 12-unit apartment buildings. Just to house them. That's great. So people
Transport, fees, whatever, yeah.
everything. Right? So I think we're just on the bottom coming up, right? And you add technology on top of that, because that's what we're going to need. So I think there's wonderful opportunities here. And when we go out to the rest of the world, we should, busing is terrible, this terrible. This is where you should come. Lots of opportunities. We need everything. We need everything.
We're gonna bring the panel portion of the evening to a close. But you're gonna stick around for a little bit.
Yeah.
Awesome. We do have, there's still some pizza and refreshments there. And we have some door prizes also, so jump over here. If you haven't entered your card for door prizes, we've got some gift certificates we can give away. We'll give you a chance to do that now, and while that's happening,